What is up, guys? Today I wanted to talk about a couple different styles of glide baits. Now, a lot of people at first glance, all glide baits might swim the same just because they are two-piece and one-hinged baits. Now, there's a wide variety of different glide baits out there, and not every single one of them will swim the exact same. So you have the S style, that's slow and makes like a tight S motion in the water, while you have other baits out there that are a true hard side-to-side glide action. And then there's other ones that are way more erratic that will shoot down or shoot up and just all over the place. I think those are pretty much the three styles. There are other styles that will define a glide bait, like the Lunker Punker or like the Musky guys. They throw gliders, but they're one-piece baits that glide like this underwater, but they're one piece. So there's quite a few different kinds of glide baits out there on the market, but we're just going to keep it swim bait related for the most part, and we're going to be talking about the two-piece one-hinge baits today. So let's get right into the video. Now, the first style of glide baits that I want to talk about are the S motion, the ones that you fish a little bit slower, that you don't really try and glide it too hard, else it might wash out and it might not swim the same. So one of the more popular ones is like the River to Sea S-Waver. I see a lot of guys up in NorCal, they fish the S-Wavers, and I see a lot of them catch really big fish on it. Like, I've seen Tactical Bassin fish them, and they catch really big fish up in NorCal. But down in SoCal, you don't see a lot of guys throwing the S-Waver. Those guys down in SoCal are throwing like the 250 or like the Clash. And so it's crazy how just different parts of the same state, some baits get bit better than others. I don't know exactly why. All I know is that the NorCal guys, they really like the S-Wavers. And so there's obviously times when those fish will want something that's slower. Another popular one that I have today with me is, of course, the Roman Made Mother. But the Mother is supposed to be fished more on a slower style. So you cast it out and you kind of reel it and it just goes real wide. But it's supposed to be really slow, like a slalom style. Obviously, the bigger the bait, it's got a bigger hinge, so it can cover a lot more water than, let's say, like an S-Waver will. So, but it's the same exact concept where you're supposed to fish it slow. The S swimming baits out there, I feel like when I fish them slow, whenever I fish the Mother, when I fish it slow, it's normally during like the colder months when they're not too active. They're a little bit slower. They're a little more lethargic. If they want something that's slowed down a lot more, then this is a bait that I would pick up rather than throwing like the Clash Ghost when the water is like 53 degrees. So normally when the water drops and it becomes, trout season, I'm going to slow down my approach, especially like when it's really cold outside. Sometimes you do have to slow it down, because if you're working the bait too fast and the water's too cold, the fish might just not want to come up there and eat the bait because it's just moving too fast for them. The colder the water, the slower the presentation, so that's when I'm picking up like an S-style swim bait. All right, so the next style of swim bait is probably the more traditional that a lot of people will pick up and like, and that's just the more true hard side-to-side glide bait. The most popular one, obviously by demand, is the Depths 250. The Depths 250 is an absolute staple when it comes down to glide baits, especially when you want something that runs true, that doesn't nose down, that doesn't need to be fished slow. This bait can do it all. You can fish this bait super slow, you can fish it super fast, you can fish it at a medium speed, you could just straight retrieve it, give it pops. You can do so much with this bait, and if you have one that's tuned correctly, it will never blow out. It's just an awesome style swim bait. When it comes down to the Depths 250, you can honestly throw this bait whenever, just because you can slow it down and you can pick it up. I've caught fish in the dead of winter on this bait, all the way into the middle of the summer fishing this bait. But my favorite way to fish this bait is just the true side. That's my favorite way to fish this bait. I've caught tons of fish on the 250. It's a true fish catching machine. A lot of guys that I've been seeing, at least recently, they've been fishing them just on like a straight retrieve and then giving it like a quick little pop every now and then and going back into their regular retrieve. When I'm fishing this style of bait, I'm looking more for that reaction. I'm looking for a fish that is fired up and ready to eat right when I put that bait in the strike zone. What a lot of times What will happen is you might fire a cast in the strike zone. You might be working it, just straight reeling it, not really giving it a whole lot, giving it a little pop. Here in Arizona, we fish a lot of stuff that's like tight points or little cuts. So when I make a cast in like a little indent in the wall, if I straight retrieve it, the bait's already out of the zone. But if I'm glide, it stays in the strike zone a lot longer than if I'm just reeling it out. So in those instances, a bait like this is super, super fire. And that's just how I fish the 250. Sometimes I will sink it out there and just do like a straight little retrieve back to the boat, give it a pop every now and then. But most of my bites have come when I'm just doing like a true side-to-side glide. So finding a glide bait that is tuned perfectly well and that it runs straight like this, it's always a killer. And then the third style of swim bait, one that a whole lot of people actually don't really like, and that's the more erratic, where you don't have a whole lot of control. Either the bait noses down or it noses up, or it's just kind of too erratic or just too hard to swim. And obviously the number one bait that I'm talking about is the HPH, the 8 or 9 inch shad glide. Now, this bait is an absolute staple for myself, my buddy Phoenix Pickner. We've caught tons and tons of fish on this lure. And at first, when I first got it, yeah, it was absolutely different than fishing like the Depths 250 or like the Hinkle trout. This one is fished way more erratic. So where the 250 is, you know, that straight, where it's just up here, this bait will actually like to nose down, where it'll kind of just go down like this. So when I'm fishing this on a long cast, the bait actually gets down to probably like 4 or 5 feet. Where if I'm fishing the 250, it's going to stay in the same exact depth range from when I casted it out to when I get it to the boat without it letting it sink. And just on a straight retrieve back to the boat, this thing is going to get down there. And obviously, a lot of people, they don't like that. They want to be able to see their bait at all times, or they just don't like how erratic it is, or just the swim doesn't look like the 250. A lot of people will start with the Depths 250, and they like the true glide that just stays up here. So when you have a bait like this that noses down, they're like, yo, what the heck is this thing? This thing is not right. Like, it shouldn't swim like that. So I see a lot of these for sale or for trade for a more traditional style glide bait, which is kind of sad because this bait gets absolutely chewed. I mean, overall, it's a super fun bait to fish. I normally will fish this during the spring, summer, and fall months. Normally the water has to be pretty warm just because I'm fishing this bait fairly fast. Like, it's going. So when I fish this bait, I want it in spring, summer, or fall, so the water's a bit warmer, those fish are more aggressive, and it's all reaction style. This bait will not get a lot of followers just because you're fishing it so fast. This bait will just downright get bit for you, and it's such an awesome bait. If I'm looking for a reaction style bait that is more true rather than like the 250, I'm picking up the Clash 9. So what I mean by that is, if I'm fishing like a wall, normally when I'm fishing a wall, I'm gonna get bit within the first, like, latest I ever go is like 5 or 6 glides, and then they normally hit it. So with the Clash 9, it's very erratic, it's very side to side, and it's more of a reaction style bait, but it also stays true, kind of like a 250. So when I'm fishing those walls, I'll make a cast up on the wall, and I'll be able to get like 3 quick little erratic glides, and that's when the fish will hit it. So I like the size of the Clash 9 for applications like that, where I'm fishing tight to cover and they're not too deep where I need to throw the HPH, and the bait's small enough to where I feel like I'd get more bites on the Clash 9 than I do on the 250. With the 250, I will easily get more followers on the 250 than I do on the Clash 9. I think with the Clash, it just gets bit kind of like the HPH, but it has a true swim more like a 250. So it's best of both worlds in that sense. You know, there's other S-style baits like the Onimasu or the Gancraft series that are that slow style. There's a lot of glide baits out there on the market to pick up. If you see one that you think might work out for you, check out videos online. There's tons of YouTube videos on every single bait out there that you can see how it swims. Pick one up, give it a good shot. Fish it for a couple of days, you know, a couple of weeks even maybe, just to get a feel for the bait, especially if you know it's a fish catching bait for others, and especially if it's a bait that people don't throw in your area. So let's say everybody on your home lake, they're throwing the 250. Well, throw something that's slowed down like the Gancraft or like an S-Wave, or try throwing like something more erratic than like an HPH. Just changing up from what everybody else throws can definitely get you way more bites than everybody else, because those fish become attuned to a certain swim. They see this, you know, for a couple of years, they will eventually get on to like, okay, I've seen that trick before. It's just, there's a couple different things that you have to think about when it comes down to picking up a certain glide bait. It's all personal preference also at the end of the day. If you guys have any other questions about glide baits, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about glide baits. Which one do you guys think is the best? Let me know. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, go out there and chase your dreams.